Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Now, about 400,000 tourists visited Madagascar back in 2008 before a 2009 coup scared off tourists and investors alike. After receiving less than 200,000 visitors in 2013, the island nation is once again advertising its pure beaches and glamour-friendly forests to foreigners in the hope of doubling those numbers and attracting much-needed foreign currency inflows. However, it faces the huge challenge of competing with neighbors as insecurity, poor transport infrastructure, and mega-expensive flights deter visitors.
Tourists used to flock to the Lemurs Park in their hundreds, but today the park attracts only a handful of tourists in a month. Tour operators blamed the latest tourism drop on a month-long strike at state-run Air Madagascar, which led to grounding all of domestic flights and massed tourist cancellations. But some industry players say the long-term trend has been just as concerning.
The choice we should do is just liberalize the air transportation, liberalize for some companies involved in the domestic transportation.
2008, the tourism in Madagascar was very high. But there is a political trouble in Madagascar since 2009, so the tourists become less and less.
With Madagascar's vital mining industry hobbled by low commodity prices on global markets, the new government has put reviving tourism at the forefront of its plans to spur economic growth and job creation in one of the world's poorest nations. Touting its dense tropical rainforests, vast barrier reefs, and unique fauna and flora as a biological wonderland, officials hope 1 million tourists will flock to the island by 2020, a five-fold increase on 2014 and more than double the 2008 peak, when some 380,000 people visited the former French colony. Tourism Minister Ulrich Andriantiana said the government, reeling from the strikes, want to liberalize the skies by introducing more competition. In the meantime, Madagascar's unique ecosystem still managed to attract some visitors who think the rich natural diversity presents opportunities for growth.
I'm a geographer and I am interested in sustainable development and sustainable tourism. And Madagascar is a very enchanting place, and one of the things that our efforts are concerned with are the opportunities for sustainable tourism, especially in reference to what is known as the Tanda Tula model for facilitating local community development.
Until now, Madagascar has marketed itself to adventure travelers as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to visit what travel books call a modern-day Noah's Ark, a reference to estimates that about 80% of its plant life cannot be found elsewhere on the planet.
Now, from what we're looking at in Madagascar to activities in Zimbabwe. Now, every cloud has a silver lining, and by that I mean that something good can come out of a terrible situation. 3 U.S. airlines have banned the transport of lion, leopard, elephant, rhino, or buffalo killed by trophy hunters in the latest fallout from the killing of Zimbabwe's Cecil, that's the lion, last month. There's been an international outcry against trophy hunting among animal lovers since it emerged that American dentist Walter Palmer killed Cecil, that's a rare black-maned lion that was a familiar sight in Zimbabwe's national park. Zimbabwe has called for the extradition of Palmer, who is accused of killing Cecil in an illegal hunt because he did not have a license. The 13-year-old lion was fitted with a GPS collar as part of an Oxford University study. Well, away from what's happening in Zimbabwe, and let's look at what's happening right here at home in Nigeria. We do have our own endangered species, and that's an unfortunate situation. But let's take a look at the top 5 African endangered species that we can also find right here in Nigeria. And the first one is the West African lion. Now, back in the 1970s, there were approximately 200,000 of these lions all over Africa. Now there are nearly 20,000. It's estimated that there are just 645 genetically distinct wild lions left in Western and Central Africa, with as few as 34 remaining in the whole territory of Nigeria. Next up is the Cross River gorilla, and gorillas who used to be the kings of the jungle are now numbered at fewer than 300 in the forests of Nigeria and Cameroon. Up next is the Cameroonian forest shrew. Now, these tiny rats are also endangered species. They can be found in southeastern Nigeria in the Gotel Mountains or Adamawa Plateau. Next is the white-throated GUENON, and it's the next vulnerable member of the list, and it's white-throated, as I said, and it's also called the red-bellied monkey and the red-bellied GUENON. Now, this and the next category, they live in rainforests or tropical areas of Nigeria and in Benin. Now, as for the red-eared GUENON, this kind of monkey is also endangered and can also be found in Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, as well as Nigeria. Its natural habitat is subtropical or tropical forests. The thing is that every animal on this list is endangered, and for that reason, we're joined in studio by Dr. Joseph Onoja. He is the Technical Director of Nigerian Conservation Foundation. Dr. Onoja, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me on channels.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Now, what are endangered species?
Well, endangered species are categorized in the IUCN Red List category as species that populations have really decreased and they are in danger of going extinct. Now, in the IUCN list, you have from the least concern to the near threatened, to the vulnerable, to the endangered, then to the critically endangered, then extinction in the wild, then totally extinct. When an animal is or plant species is said to have gone extinct, it means that it's completely wiped off the face of the earth. So we have some endangered species in Nigeria.
Why is that the case?
Well, sometimes it's natural, but most of the endangered species we have is human-induced situation. And this is caused especially by the loss of their habitats. First of all, we have what is happening, the deforestation that is going on. The white-throated GUENON you talked about is actually an endemic in Nigeria. What that means is that it's only found in Nigeria, nowhere else in the world. So if its habitat, which is a forested rainforest area, is degraded, it will have no other place to stay. So that drives its population down because it needs that habitat to be able to breed, it needs that habitat for its shelter, it needs that habitat for food. So if it doesn't get all these things which make up its biological entity, it will go into extinction.
Well, is it too late to reverse this situation?
Well, as it is now, not to sound too grim, not to paint the situation too grim, it's not late. That's why we are here, trying to call on everybody to put hands on deck for us to change, to reverse the situation. We still have some rainforest left in Nigeria, so that's what we're trying to do, to sensitize everybody. Everybody needs to be involved in this work. And that is why as NCF, the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, we try to sensitize people, call everybody, because we can all be part of this progress. We want a situation whereby our children will come up and find these animal species and plant species also, not having them in pictures as some species that have gone extinct. All we can see, we find them just in pictures. So we don't want that situation to happen. And that's why we're calling on everybody to put hands on deck. And the little things that we do can change, can turn things around.
What are those little things we can do?
For instance, pollution. When we talk about pollution, we have people using unrecyclable materials. We can go into using recyclable materials. That is I'm talking about just common things that ordinary man on the floor, in the street can do. You drink what we call pure water,